This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, my clock says 6 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. And for any of those that want to join, you can just jump on. So it's November the 3rd, 2020 presidential election Q&A. So some of the topics that I'd like to discuss tonight are the new laws that came down starting July the 1st, difference between absentee voting, mail-in votes, and early voting, how to register to vote, how to apply for an absentee ballot application, the instructions on filling out the paperwork when you receive your ballot, how to early vote, security measures, how to help at the polls, specific questions that had been asked, miscellaneous, and some important dates. So let's start with the laws. HB 235 and SB 219 is voter registration, automatic voter registration. And basically what this means is anytime that you go into the Department of Motor Vehicles now, whether it's to get a new driver's license, to change your driver's license, to renew anything, to change any address or anything that you have to do at the Department of Motor Vehicles, you are automatically registered to vote if you say that you are a U.S. citizen. The only way that we will not receive something from you is if you desire to opt out. But basically anything that you go into the Department of Motor Vehicles, it will come to our office as an update or not even maybe a change. The next one is HB 19 and SB 65. This one, I'm sure that a lot of you had heard on the news. The media comes out and says, you know, there's no ID that is required. Well, that's not true. What it is they're taking away the photo ID. They're repealing of the photo ID requirements, and now it's basically going back to the way it was before 2014. And 2014 was when the law changed to have photo ID. That does not mean that you cannot still come in and use your driver's license, but you can use your voter registration card. And we have a whole list of things that will be, when we get to the registration part, that I'll show you that you can actually use for identification. Absentee voting, HB1 and SB 111. This is absentee voting, no excuse required. This has been a big law. This has been a big bill that has been in process for a couple years now. When we first started hearing about it, we thought that it was only going to be 7 days prior to the election that we were going to allow anybody to come into our office or to request an absentee ballot application with no excuse. But the law changed in July, and it is allowing up to 45 days now. So September the 19th, September the 18th, which is a Friday, absentee starts, and that's 45 days prior to the election that you can actually come into our office and vote and not have to show any kind of reason why you're voting. The applications that we're getting via either the mail or online is the same thing. You don't have to have an excuse. This is really nothing new as far as the 45 days. The only thing that makes it new is the fact that you don't have to have an excuse now. Absentee voting, HB 238 and SB 455. This is the deadline for returning absentee ballots. So the changes is this: for a voter to return an absentee ballot by mail or commercial delivery service. So the ballots still have to be in our office by 7 o'clock on election night. However, this bill allows us to be able to accept absentee ballots up until Friday, as long as those ballots are postmarked the day of the election. We can receive them up until noon on the third day after the election, but they do have to be postmarked by either a commercial delivery service, the mail, You can't bring them in, and they have to have on there that they're postmarked by the 3rd of November in order for us to accept them. So I want to talk a little bit about the difference of what is absentee voting and what is early voting, because I know that that is a lot that's in the news now of what people are talking about. Absentee ballots have to be requested by the voter. In 29 states and Washington, D.C., any registered voter may request an absentee ballot for any reason. In 16 states, you must have a reason or an excuse to request and receive an absentee ballot. Qualifying reasons vary from state to state, but voters typically have to show why they cannot physically be at the polling location, like military service or out of school, out of the state for school. I know that a lot of you have probably done absentee ballots, whether you've come into my office or whether you have requested one. And if you remember, there was a long list of reasons as to why you were requesting it. 16 states still allow that, or still have that reason. Again, like I said earlier, we don't. We did away with the excuse, but it's still considered absentee because you are requesting this from us. Early or mail-in voting is basically, there's 5 states, Washington, Oregon, Colorado, Utah, and Hawaii, conduct their elections through a mail-in process that's referred to as all-mail voting. What happens in this is registered voters in those states are automatically sent a ballot without them even requesting one. It's sent to their addresses before Election Day and mailed back by the voter or deposited at a voting location or a secure box by a certain time on Election Day. In addition to these existing jurisdictions, Vermont, California, Nevada, and the District of Columbia have decided to automatically send ballots out this year without people requesting it. As it stands right now, Virginia is still all absentee, and I don't see us changing that at any time for this election. There's too many things that have to happen in order for that to be enforced. Bottom line is that the claims that absentee ballots are different than mail-in ballots are true, but there's only one difference: how you actually get the ballot. So as I said before, an absentee ballot, you, the voter, have to request that. Regardless of their name, all the ballots are treated the same once they're in the mail. So what is early voting? Early voting is a process by which voters in a public election can vote prior to the scheduled election day. Again, like I said, ours is 45 days. Early voting can take place remotely, such as by mail or in person, usually in designated early voting stations. The availability and time periods for early voting vary among states and types of election. The goals of this is to usually increase voter participation and relieve congestion at polling stations on Election Day. We are the only state that I know of right now that offers 45 days. Most other states are either 21, 14, or 7 days prior to the election. So before you can even do any of this, to request a ballot or to actually vote, you need to register to vote. So I'm going to show you the easiest way that you can register to vote. Typically, there's 3 ways that you can do it. The online process, which I'm going to show you, requesting an application from our office or the Department of Motor Vehicles. So the online seems to be the easiest. And for those of you that would like to possibly conduct some voter registration drives, my suggestion, and again, this is just my suggestion, would be to set up some laptops and to be able to have the people actually get online that I'm going to show you and have them do it. It eliminates the fact that you are taking sensitive information from them, and it eliminates the fact that you are carrying papers around that may get lost and may not get to offices, whether it's mine or another registrar's office. So let me just show you real quick. So you're going to go to the Department of Elections website, which down at the bottom here you'll see it's www.elections.virginia.gov. It's going to bring you up to this page right here. You're going to go up to where it says registration. When you come to the screen here where it says registration, you're going to come down to where it says how to become a registered voter. Okay. And then the next screen is going to bring you how to register. And you're going to come down here where it says online registration right here. Okay. And all these are hyperlinks. So once you click them, it's going to take you to the next page. So the next page after you click that is a citizen portal. And it's basically saying before you start, the security of your personal information is important to us, okay? You're gonna hit go. You're gonna come up with these 4 tabbies here: register to vote, check your voter registration status, find your polling place, and apply to vote by mail. Later in the slides, I will show you you're gonna actually be using this apply by mail vote the same way that you're using the registration. So once you click on this register to vote, it's going to bring you up to this requirements here. So the requirements are that you have to have a valid DMV driver's license or a state ID card, be a citizen of the United States, a resident of Virginia, 18 years old on or before the next general election. If you're 17, you can still register and vote in elections if you'll be 18 on or before the next general election. So for example, the last 2 elections that we had, the March primary and the June primary, if somebody was 17 and they were going to be 18 on, let's say, November. Pardon me? Sorry, they're getting a little bit of feedback here. So if you were going to be 17 or 18, say November 2nd, they could have registered to vote and they could have voted in those 2 primaries. Okay, so you just fill in the name, last name. This is important. You need to put your driver's license number in here. Some driver's license number are T, some may be A. In order for it, what happens is that captures your signature and allows us to actually get your application through our what we call Hopper, our workstation. We do require that you do put your social security number in, your full social security number, your date of birth, and your date of birth is done with slashes, like 04/01/19, whatever. You are going to certify that the information that you provided is correct. You're going to hit the next button, and then it's going to bring you up to some questions. Are you a U.S. citizen? What is your residency status? Are you currently registered to vote in another state? If you are currently registered to vote in another state, you would click yes. And then it's going to highlight this drop-down box here, and you would just put which state. What this does is this automatically pings to the Department of Elections, and then they will send it out to the state that you were currently registered in to take you off their rolls. Have you ever been convicted of a felon or judged mentally incapacitated? Okay. So then once you do that, it's going to populate your name. You choose your suffix, you choose your gender, and you put your address in here and your locality. Here you're saying, I have read the terms and the Privacy Act notice. You hit your next button. This is the protected voter, and this is optional. What this is basically if you're active, retired law enforcement, U.S. Attorney General, you've been granted a court order for protective order, you're in fear for your personal safety and you're being threatened or stalked, you're a participant in the Virginia Attorney General's address confidentiality program, or you've been approved to be a foster parent. The difference between this is if you check any one of those, you have to have a post office box, and that is a requirement of law in order for you to be able to check any one of these boxes. Earlier in the screen, when we had those little tabbies and it said check my voter registration status, if you have checked this and you have given us a post office box, when you go in to check your voter registration status, it will not come up because it is a protected voter. So just be aware of that. I've had several people who have called sometimes that said my name isn't showing up on the voter registration rolls, and it is. It's just that it's not going to show that because you are a protected voter. Classification. This is if you're in the military or if you're a spouse And then would you like to vote by mail? This is something that you can actually do, or if you're not really sure if you really want to vote by mail, you can actually go back to the state board website and do a vote by mail instead of here. So we're just going to say, no, I don't want to do an absentee ballot right now. We ask that you do put your phone number in, only so if there's something wrong on your application that we can contact you, especially when it gets down to where the deadlines for voter registration is, and we want to make sure that everybody is able to get registered and vote in the election. Down here, additional information if you want to be an election official, and I'll be talking about that a little bit tonight as well. So you click on here, and you're going to review your whole application. You can actually click on each one of these boxes here, and it's going to bring up everything that you have just put in there just to make sure that everything is correct. You're going to swear and affirm under felony penalty that everything is correct. Click on the submit button, and when you click on that submit button, it is going to actually come to our workstation. It's not like automatic. It takes a couple hours for us to get it, but it will be in our workstation. We will process it, and you will get a voter registration card in the mail from us within the next couple of days. So the same process for how do you get an absentee ballot by mail. Again, you can call our office. We can actually send you out an application. It's not a ballot. You are not getting the ballot until you fill out an application. So there is a process that you have to go by. And you can actually do it the same way. You're going to go back to the state board website, but instead of registration, you're going to go up to where it says casting a ballot. And you're going to follow the same thing. Casting a ballot, how to vote. You're going to go down to where it says more details on voting and absentee. And then you're going to apply to vote by mail online, right? And there's your 4 tabbies again. And you're going to come over here and you're going to apply to vote by mail. You will put your name, your date of birth, and this, we only need the last 4 digits of your social. King George County is the locality. You're going to certify and affirm that you provided everything correctly. You hit submit. And then that's going to bring you up to your information. This is your voter information. So it's going to have everything here, your residential address. It's actually going to show your precinct that you vote in. And down here, it will show every election that you actually have voted in, okay? You want to click on the box where it says, I want to apply to vote by absentee. You're going to hit the continue. And then you're going to start the process again of the driver's license. Again, like I said, that captures your signature, the date of birth, your social security. Here you do have to put your full social security number in. You are consenting for the DMV signature to be used for your application and that you have read the terms of the Privacy Act. Okay, you're going to hit the next button asking you the same thing. What is your residency status? You'll hit next. Again, your military status, you'll hit next. And I would like to vote by mail for the next election. I'm seeing a lot of applications that are coming in that are stating I would like to vote by mail in each election for the remainder of the calendar year. If you click that box, what that's going to do is it will trigger us to be able to send you out an application for next year. If we were having another election after the November election, then it would allow us to be able to automatically send you out a ballot. But because of the fact that this is November, and I'm hoping we don't have another election after the November election, but you never know. But what this is now is, if let's say that you were doing this in June and you clicked this would allow me to be able to send out a ballot for the November election. But as it stands right now, for those of you that have not already submitted an application, you can just click on, I would like to vote by mail for the next election, which the next election would be the November 2020. The other thing I want to say is if you have already submitted an application, you do not need to submit another application. Even if you submitted it way back in March, you do not need to send us another application. We have it on file. If you're unsure, please just give us a call, because what happens then, the only time that you would really need to submit another application if you've done it way back early in the year is if something has changed on that application, if your address has changed. So if you're unsure, like I said, please just give us a call and we will look it up. Also, please note that if you submitted an application way back in March or January or even last November for this November election, the ballots are not here yet. The ballots will not be available until the middle of September in order for us to be able to send them out to you, okay? So after you get this, you hit next. You're going to choose the election. So this one is the November general. You'll hit next. And this right here, if you have a post office box, or if you're in school, or if you are going to be somewhere other than your residence address, you need to click this box and put that address in there. This application is not going to automatically default to your post office box. And I cannot stress that enough. So if that is where you want us to send your ballot to somewhere other than your residence address, then you need to click this box here. So you're going to hit next. Again, please give us your phone number, because if something comes up, we want to make sure that we can get in touch with you in order to be able to make sure that you are going to be getting your ballot. Hit the next button. It's going to give you the same things that the voter registration screen had. You have your identity. You can check everything. These are hyperlinks that when you click them, they're going to come up. You're going to swear and affirm. You're going to submit. And then it's automatically going to come to our workstation as well. So I have a little video here that I just want to show you that whenever you get ready to get your ballot and you get it back, then it's going to show you the envelopes and everything that you can see here. All right, just give me a second. Okay.
Absentee voting. How does all this work? We hope over the minutes we will be able to help guide you through the process of voting your absentee ballot and returning it to our office. If you get to the end and still have questions, please feel free to give us a call. Your ballot will come to you in the mail at the address you provided on your application. When you open this envelope, you will find a sheet of instructions on how to vote your absentee ballot and 3 smaller envelopes. Envelope A contains your ballot. Envelope B will be filled out once you have completed your ballot. And the last is the envelope to mail your ballot back to our office. Envelope A contains your ballot. Do not open this envelope until you are ready to vote. If you do not have a witness, stop and call our office so that we can give you some options on what to do next. When you're ready to vote your ballot, please read the instructions at the top carefully. Then use a dark colored pen to make your selections. Once you have finished making your selections on your ballot, fold it up and place it into envelope B. Seal that envelope and turn it over to complete the other side. This is an example of how to fill out envelope B. On the address line, be sure to use your residence address. Don't write your P.O. box on this line. Don't forget to sign it and have your witness sign it. If you do not have a witness to sign this section, be sure to call our office before you mark your ballot. Once you have completed envelope B, place it into the envelope to be mailed back to our office. The envelope comes already addressed to our office and has your information as the return address. Be sure to place a stamp on it, and then it can be mailed in the regular mail. Hopefully this short video has guided you through the process to vote your absentee ballot. If you still have questions, please feel free to give us a call at our office.
So some of the frequently asked questions is, who can be my witness? Anyone over the age of 18 can verify that you are the named voter who voted your ballot. What if you don't have a witness? Again, like we said, you can bring your absentee ballot packet with your unvoted ballot back to our office. We can even come out to your car. When should you mail your ballot back? We must receive your ballot in our office by 7 p.m. on election day for it to be counted. And you should allow as much time as possible for the USPS to get it to our office. And can I bring my ballot back to the registrar's office? Yes, but only you. So ballots may be personally returned by the named voter only. So if you and your husband have voted your ballots, you can witness each other's signature, but Mr. has to bring his own ballot in and Mrs. has to bring her own ballot in. That is the law. There's some things that can be changed as far as procedures and rules, but we can't change the law. So just remember that, okay? One of the things that was on that envelope B when Jinsey had made that for me is it basically said, do not put your post office box there. Well, remember to put your residence address there. So if I'm mailing it to somebody at the school, so if it's a student, don't put your school address there. You need to put your King George address there in order for it to count. Right now, as of today, August the 12th, we are requiring a witness. That may change, I don't know. And if it does, then we will get the statement out on our Facebook page and our web page to let you all know that a witness may not be needed. But as it stands right now, a witness is needed on your absentee ballot application. So how do you early vote? Well, our office is at 10459 Courthouse Drive, Suite 102. You can come to our office starting September 21st, 2020, up until October 31st, 2020, to vote in person. And we are continually practicing safety measures to keep you, the voter, and our staff safe while you vote. So you can come in. We ask that if you are going to come in, that you will wear your mask. Or we can meet you out in the parking lot. We will have designated parking spots, just like we did for the June primary, for you to be able to vote. Important voting dates. Friday, September 18th is the early voting begins. Like I said, you can come to our office and vote in person. Saturday, October 24th, we're open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. for voting. And then Saturday, October 31st, we're open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. for voting. The last day for in-person voting is Saturday, October 31st. So what do you need to do to show ID, both for in-person voting and at the polls? As I stated earlier, basically it's your voter registration card, but you can use a valid photo ID issued by an employer, a valid photo ID issued by a U.S. or Virginia government, your student ID issued by a public or private high school located in Virginia only, but a valid student ID issued by a public or private college or university located in the U.S., government issued ID card from a federal, Virginia, or local political subdivision. You can still use your driver's license, the tribal enrollment, tribal ID, passport, U.S. military, nursing home ID, if it's by a government facility, your voter card issued by the Department of Elections, voter confirmation documents. Some registrars actually use a letter instead of the voter card. And then any current utility bill, bank statement, government check, paycheck containing the name and address of the voter, and any other current government document containing the name. So really, again, nothing has changed in the essence of your ID. It's just you don't have to have a photo ID. Not acceptable IDs is a valid out-of-state driver's license, a credit card displaying a photograph, membership card from a private organization, that would be like your BJ's or your Costco card, and a business card displaying a photograph, okay? So I have another little video. A lot of people talk about security and how things are secured in our office, how things are secured as far as ballots, how we do the voter registration, um, our voting machines. But just keep in mind that this little video is, it is not just specific to Virginia. It is actually, it involves a lot of different states. Okay. And this is done through the Elections Assistant Commission.
Have you ever wondered about how we secure elections? That's a fair question. Security has always been at the heart of what election officials do, which is why each state and jurisdiction has measures in place to ensure security in all phases of the election process. Most people don't see the behind-the-scenes work that makes it happen, but today we're giving you a peek. Let's start with voter registration, which is a security measure in itself. Registration ensures that only those meeting state eligibility requirements are able to vote and helps keep track of who has cast a ballot in an election. If a voter shows up on election day and believes she is eligible and registered to vote, but, for example, her name does not appear on the registration list, or she does not have the required form of ID, she can cast a provisional ballot. Election officials determine whether or not to count provisional ballots after verifying the voter's eligibility. Once you're registered, election officials take a great deal of care to keep your personal data safe. Only authorized personnel have access to the voter registration database. All database traffic is monitored, and logs detail each time the database is accessed or changed. Routine backups ensure all data can be restored if any unexpected modifications are made. Though data are public record, personal information is only released in accordance with a state's legal guidelines. Now to the heart of the election process, voting. U.S. elections are conducted independently across thousands of local jurisdictions, each following unique laws and statutes, which means there's no single point of access. Transparency is built into the election process. Almost all processes and procedures require that 2 or more trained personnel be involved. And these folks have taken an oath to uphold state election laws and protect the security of the election. In addition, representatives of political parties or candidates, and sometimes even members of the general public, are allowed to observe and monitor activities throughout the election processes. If something does happen on or near election day, most jurisdictions have backup plans to make sure voters can still cast their ballots. These plans cover everything from voter registration list backups to moving of poll locations due to a natural disaster or power failure. A good deal of care is taken to ensure voting equipment is safe too. When it isn't being used, voting equipment is stored in a facility accessible only to trained election personnel. Before voting starts, each piece of voting equipment is put through logic and accuracy tests to make sure ballots will be counted correctly, and often the public is invited to observe these tests. Ballots and election equipment are typically secured with tamper-evident seals and transported to polling places in secure containers. And each time they switch hands, it has to be documented. While materials and equipment are in use, they're closely watched by election workers trained to notice and respond to any suspicious behavior. What about the folks who vote by mail? Well, these ballots are protected by state rules and procedures that determine how they must be handled. While steps are taken to ensure that mail ballots are as private as those cast inside a polling place, mailed envelopes must be signed so that the signature on the ballot envelope may be compared to the signature on the voter's registration form. Such signature requirements let election officials make sure these ballots have been filled out by the correct voter. Now to counting those results. Today, most ballots are counted electronically, either by the same voting machines where votes are cast or by devices that scan paper ballots. Most jurisdictions have adopted policies that forbid machines from connecting to the internet in accordance with state and local guidelines. When the polls close on election night, election personnel collect vote counts from each machine and report results to election headquarters. The votes are tabulated at election headquarters before they're reported to the public. Ballots and equipment are then securely transported back to election headquarters. Although we may know who won an election within a few hours, results are not official until the vote is certified by the election office. That happens once the office verifies the ballots from each precinct, early voting, absentee voting, uniformed and overseas citizen ballots, and provisional ballots. These ballots are kept in a secure location as required by law. Once all records are confirmed, the election results become official. And many jurisdictions conduct post-election audits to further validate results. So you see, there's a lot that goes into keeping our elections secure, but it's worth it. It means ensuring the voices of the American people are always heard.
So before I get into about how can I become an election official, because we are always looking for people to help, there's some of the things that was said on that video that I would like to just reiterate, because these are some of the questions that some people ask as well. A lot of people don't understand that your absentee ballot is counted in a precinct all by itself. So I know that there's some people who have asked me, well, you only count the absentee ballots if the election is closed, correct? And no, the absentee ballots are an official precinct. It's called a CAP. It's called a central absentee precinct, and they are counted on election night, just like each of the precincts are. A provisional ballot, a lot of people don't know what a provisional ballot is. A provisional ballot is basically a ballot that is voted at the polling place, but is not run through the voting machine. It could have been, for example, somebody received an absentee ballot application and decided that they didn't want to vote that absentee ballot application and wanted to go to the polls instead. So instead of them bringing all of their paperwork that was sent to them, they just went to the polls to vote. Well, the officers of election only have a form that shows that an absentee ballot was sent out to that person. They don't know if that person actually had voted that ballot, if it had come back yet. So they're asked to have that person vote a provisional. And then the electoral board the next day, when they do what is called the canvass of the votes, will determine whether that absentee ballot will cast or will count or not after looking at the sheet to see if that ballot actually did come back from that person. And 9 chances out of 10, it really hasn't. And so those ballots do count. But those are two of the things that you hear a lot about. You hear a lot about the absentee, and you hear a lot about provisional. So I just kind of wanted to just clear that up a little bit. So how can you become an election official? Well, we need dedicated individuals who take pride in their work and are patient and enjoy working with people, who can take directions well and are detail oriented. Especially for these big elections, we try to have as many as 12 to 15 people in the polling places to help. So we have a form, if you're interested, that we can mail out. You can call our office and let us know that you're interested in wanting to help. One of the things I will tell you is that when you do sign up to be an officer of election, you're signing up for a 3-year term. That doesn't necessarily mean that you will have to work every election that we have for 3 years, but it is something that it's an oath that you're taking. You're taking that an oath saying that you're going to support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and that you're faithfully and impartially going to discharge all of the duties incumbent upon you as an officer of election. So it is a very detailed job, and it is a very important job. And that's why we say that, you know, we want you to work for 3 years. Most of my officers of election that have been with me for over 10, 12. I have some that have worked with me for 20 years. This election, June, and well, March wasn't so bad, but June kind of took a toll on our officers of election because of the fact of the COVID. And I have some older ones that have not been able to get out to serve. So we are short on some officers of election. The polling places will be open on election day. I think that was a question that we'll go over when I come to the questions. But when you're an officer of election, you take 2 oaths. You take one when you are being appointed for the term, and then you take one on election day. And the oath on election day basically is that you will perform the duties of the election to the best of your ability, and you will studiously endeavor to prevent fraud, deceit, and abuse in conducting these elections. When you walk into that polling place, no matter if you are a D or an R, when you walk into a polling place, you become nonpartisan, and that's what we need. We need to make sure that if you're going to work inside, you have no political affiliation whatsoever. We will be doing 5 trainings for this upcoming election because I want to be able to have the people together. And in order to be able to have my officers together, I have to be able to distance them. So I'm doing 5 trainings, morning and evening. So if you are interested, let me know. The trainings won't start until October. So even if you have already signed up as an officer of election, please just take note that we have received it. We just haven't sent anything out yet for our training, okay? You do get paid. It's not a lot for the work that you have to do, but we have good precincts and we have good people that we work with. So some of the questions that came in was, what if I request an absentee ballot and then change my mind and want to vote in person? Can I do that? I answered that when we were talking a little bit about the provisional. We ask that you please reconsider if you have requested an absentee ballot and you have time before the absentee period has gone by before October 31st, that if you decide that you do want to go to the polls, to please bring the stuff into us. It's going to be a long, busy day, and the process of that is more paperwork involved for the chiefs, and it just makes it longer for you to have to go to the polls and vote if you've already requested an absentee ballot. All of the precincts will be open in November. No, they're not going to be combined like they were in the primary. We're hoping that we will get enough people to work. We didn't really have enough people for the primary, so we did combine the polling places. Because of the COVID, we're taking precautions at each of the polling places where each of the officers will be wearing their masks, but we also have to sanitize all of the voting booths once the voter leaves. And so this is going to take a little more time. We're still trying to look at different ways of maybe having like some curbside voting outside along with voting inside. We're still kind of working out those details. So, but again, yes, we need help on election day. And really the last thing that I want to talk about is this, I guess, big thing that's going around now about the Center for Voter Participation and the applications that people are getting and what it is and if it's legit or if it's fraudulent. So let me just go to this materials from the Voter Center. I'm sure a lot of people have probably received these. It is a pre-filled application that has come out to several voters with the King George County Registrar's post office box. I will start this by saying that this did not come from our office. It came from the Center for Voter Information. The Center for Voter Information and the Voter Participation Centers are legitimate organizations. A quote from Paige Gardner, who is the founder for the Center of Voter Information, states that they're trying to do is help more and more people to vote at home. We are really trying to send early as many requests for ballots as we possibly can, recognizing we're in a pandemic and recognizing people want to vote from home in a safe way, end quote. So what happens is that the Board of Elections, the state board, does say that third parties, groups like the Center for Voter Information, are allowed to send out these requests. And they say they can also be confusing or frustrating for voters and erode confidence in elections, especially when they're unsolicited. But if you remember, back in bigger elections, 2016, 2008, 2012, these things went out as well. They either went out for absentee voting, or they went out for voter registration. This group is not a group that has not been around for a long time. But with everything and the media and everything that's coming down, I just wanted you all to be aware that we do know that these are out there. It is not generated from our office. It's not generated from the Department of Elections. It is a legitimate application. If you so choose that you want to use it, you can, or you can throw it away and call us and request an absentee ballot application, and we will be more than happy to send it out to you, or you can go online as we did earlier to do your absentee ballot application. If for some other tips, let me just give you is rely on official sources, especially county election officials, for accurate information about elections and the voting process. So if you are hearing things on Facebook or the media or whatever news sources that you're listening to, my suggestion is, whether you live in King George County, whether you live in Westmoreland, whether you live in Stafford or wherever, call your registrar's office. We're the ones that know what goes on as far as the back end of the processes. So we're just asking that you let us know if you have any concerns with this, and we will talk to you and tell you, that we're doing everything that we can to make sure that your vote will count and that we will uphold the integrity of this election. Some other things: you can request an absentee ballot by going to the state board, as I showed you earlier. If you have concerns about this mailing, you can contact the group yourself. We can't. I mean, we've talked to them, but you all can contact them yourself to help stop the outreach efforts. Election officials do not randomly call or text residents to encourage them to register to vote or request absentee ballot. So just remember that if you're getting robocalls from people, it's not coming from the state board and it's not coming from the registrar's office. We know these groups are often well-intended, and we certainly do not want to discourage folks from being active participants in our democracy, but we also want to make sure that their actions do not prohibit it, impair, or cause voters not to be active participants in democracy as well. So just remember that if you have any concerns, any questions, my staff and myself will be more than happy to address those for you. So some important dates to remember: Friday, September the 18th, early voting begins. Absentee by mail ballots are mailed. So we will start mailing them out. Hopefully we'll get the ballots out a little earlier and we can start mailing them before the 18th, but that is the date that we actually have to get them out. Tuesday, October 13th is the deadline to register or change your registration before the November election. So if you've moved, if you've changed your name, if you're not sure that you're registered, call us, let us know. We will look you up in the system. But you have until the 13th of October to make any changes for this November election. Friday, October 23rd, 5 p.m. is the deadline for requesting a mail absentee ballot. Saturday, October 24th, we're open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. for voting. Saturday, October 31st, we're open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. for voting as well. Last day for in-person voting prior to Election Day. That's the last day that you can actually come into our office and vote. Now we are open 8 to 4:30 every day, Monday through Friday, in order if you do want to come in to do the 45 days prior to the election. So that concludes what we've been talking about tonight. I hope that answers some questions. I hope that you feel a little more comfortable with knowing what's out there and knowing that we are protecting your vote. We are protecting the democracy of the election. Again, if you have any questions, if you have any concerns, our email address is up there, our phone number. We ask that you just reach out to us. If you are interested in working the election, we ask that you reach out to us for that as well. So we thank you for joining us tonight, and we look forward to serving you in this upcoming election. Thank you.